12s, welcome. So as the title suggests, we will be doing a video on tropical cyclones. I know how much this is a topic people love to hate, but I hope by the end of this video you see that there's no reason. Okay, first things first, the definition. Like, what are these things called tropical cyclones? In a nutshell, they are very heavy storms that are characterized by like heavy wind speeds. They're destructive in a nutshell. But let's read the definition. They are intense rotating storm systems with strong winds, heavy rain, and thunderstorms. So in a nutshell, those are tropical cyclones. As we go along this video, we will go into the characteristics but this is your definition. Also, just as a young, I've seldom seen them ask for the definition of tropical cyclones, but it's always good to know. Okay, yeah. Okay, you also need to know where they occur. This is something they may slide in as a 1 mark, 2 mark question, but it is good for you to know. So, as you can see here, tropical cyclones occur within 30 degrees north and south. So this is basically right here, if you can see where the pointer is pointing. This is where they will occur. However, and we'll still go into more detail, they actually begin occurring from 5 degrees both north and south. So they do not occur from 0 to 5 degrees north and south. And the reason for that is because that is close to the equator. And if you remember from your grade 11, you spoke about, or you were taught about, something called the Coriolis force. And within 0 to 5 degrees, which is by the equator, there is no Coriolis force. And the Coriolis force is actually something that is required for these tropical cyclones to occur. So they do not occur there. They basically occur from 5 to 30 degrees, both north and south of the equator. Okay, so how do we, what are the characteristics of these tropical cyclones? First things first, a tropical cyclone will have an eye within the center. And another thing that's important is that this eye has a low pressure, which is less than 1,000 hectopascals. I've once had a topic asking on what hectopascals are. It's just a unit of measure for air pressure. So yes, that's one characteristic of a tropical cyclone. And then, furthermore, within this eye, that's where you'll find calm weather, clear skies. That's how the eye is characterized. The eye wall. This is where the destruction happens, because here you find the most intense winds, the heaviest rain, thunderstorms with thick cumulonimbus clouds. For those of you who do not know what a cumulonimbus cloud is, you probably were not paying attention in grade 10, or you just don't remember. But it's a thick, tall cloud. You'll see a picture of a cumulonimbus cloud as we proceed. But that is a characteristic of the eye wall. And then there's also spiral rain bands, and that's like thunderstorms that are spiraling around the eye. So that is another characteristic of a tropical cyclone. If we were together and in class, I'd be like, any questions? Do you guys understand? But since I can't, let's proceed. Okay, what you need to know, and it's very important, is that rotation of a tropical cyclone is clockwise in the southern hemisphere. However, opposite is true in the northern hemisphere. But as we are in South Africa, you will be examined on tropical cyclones in the southern hemisphere, so you just need to know that the direction is clockwise. Heavy rainfall, hail, storm surges, hurricane wind speeds up to 300 kilometers an hour. I'm pretty sure most of us living in South Africa haven't really experienced this, but it is intense. It damages property. It's intense. And then another thing, tropical cyclones are given alphabetical names. So, for example, there will be tropical cyclone Bob. Yeah, as an example. Tropical cyclone Bob. And the B for Bob indicates that it is the second tropical cyclone to occur in that season. So A, B, C, D, F, G, just, yeah, in the exam, just sing your alphabet. But yeah, tropical cyclone Bob, B, second tropical cyclone to occur in that season. And another thing that is important is that they only affect the east coasts of continents. You may be asking why? Why do they only affect the east coasts? Because the east coast of continents is where you find the warm ocean current. And we will go into it further in this video, but a warm ocean current is a requirement for a tropical cyclone. So it can't happen on the west coast. So if there are some of you who have been to Cape Town or live in Cape Town, you will know that the water in Cape Town, like in the ocean, is cold. So, and Cape Town is on the west coast. So areas within the west coast could never have tropical cyclones because of that. Yeah, so it only occurs on the east coast. And they move from west to east within the tropical easterlies. That point will, in fact, most of these characteristics, they will seldom ask you, list the 5 characteristics. Are they tropical cyclone? I doubt it. They will not. Tropical cyclones are often examined as a case study. Of course, they will be like short questions, but they're often examined as a case study. And this is where you will need to apply. So a lot of geography is applying. Okay, I made a mistake with that point, but we move because I've already discussed that. Now we go into the conditions necessary for development. I've already mentioned the first one, that a Coriolis force is required. I've already mentioned, I've briefly touched on the east coast thing and the water temperature. So the water temperature for a tropical cyclone to occur needs to be greater than 26.5 degrees, which is why you cannot find it on the west coast of continents, because the water there will not get to 26.5 degrees. Okay, I've already said an ocean temperature. I've already said that. Develop only over the tropical oceans, and that's mainly because of the temperature of those tropical oceans. You know, as you go further south, the further south and further north, the ocean temperature then decreases. So that's that. Okay, so it requires a hot, moist air, which is another reason why it requires an ocean temperature greater than 26.5 degrees, so that evaporation, like water like that, is able to evaporate, and the hot, moist air feeds the tropical cyclone. Like, it creates unstable air, and as it rises, it's able to form those thick cumulonimbus clouds and those thunderstorms, blah 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 blah. A lot of these concepts you've kind of learnt about in earlier grades, but now you kind of put it into full use, like evaporation, condensation, how clouds form, all of those things. But again, if you do not understand, please feel free to ask me in the comments, and I will explain that further. I'm just trying to note, just in case, most of us are on the same page. Okay, you need to know the associated weather patterns relating to a tropical cyclone. And again, they will seldom ask you to list them. They'll be like, name 3 weather. No, they will ask you probably in a case study, something like that. But you also need to know basically how to interpret a cross section. So remember earlier I mentioned the cumulonimbus clouds, for those of you who don't know, or for some people who started taking geography matric, which happens. So yeah, for those people, these are what we would call cumulonimbus clouds. It's those thick gray clouds that you see on a rainy day when it's like a thunderstorm. This is how they look like. This is the cross section of a tropical cyclone and the associated weather. So here we've got the table which essentially explains what happens as we go along. I should have just put that there so that it's easier for you guys to follow, but yeah. Okay, I skipped the stages, but because it's mostly it's straightforward. Well, again, I stand to be corrected, so if there is someone who would like me to go over that, I can do that as well. But they will examine that as well in a case study. So know the different stages, know what is associated with the various stages, but there's an activity that we will do and you will see the importance of knowing the stages. So then you also need to know the impact of tropical cyclones and how they impact humans, how they impact the environment, and how they impact the economy. For time's sake, I will not go through the impacts because it makes sense according to me, but yeah, and I'm sure you can just read that, but when we do the activity we'll put that into application. So these are just more impacts. Okay, let us go into a case study of tropical cyclone Idai, which happened which occurred in March 2019. It was a devastating tropical cyclone, but this is how you can identify a tropical cyclone. So you can see that I over there, you can clearly see that this is a tropical cyclone from this image. So that's why I just added it over there. And then this, again, you do not have to study this for the exam. It's just a case study that we can go through so that you will see how they will possibly examine it. Do not study this. You do not have to know when the cyclone occurred. Yeah, but it affected Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. So just think about how it's only Mozambique that occurs on the coast, but tropical cyclones are so destructive that they even affected an area such as Zimbabwe, which is so far from the coast. So they are very destructive. Yeah. Okay. And then the impact was that there were over 1,300 fatalities. So not only do they destroy properties, but there's loss of life. As you can see here, the people are carrying suitcases and their belongings, trying to move to other places of shelter because it's just horrible having to go through something like this. And it's worse if it happens in a developing country like Mozambique, places in America like Texas and the likes also experience tropical cyclones, and they are just as destructive. But because of the fact that it's a developed country, mitigation is a bit easier for them in comparison to areas in Africa. So that's just something I'm just adding. You don't have to know this for your exam, but let us get into the activity. How many cyclones occurred before tropical cyclone Idai in the season? I should have thought of a different name. Okay, let's do the alphabet together. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Ooh, we stopped there. So that is 8. So 8 occurred before this one. This one is the 9th one, if I'm counting correctly. my alphabet, but you see how you would answer this question. Yeah, if I didn't count correctly, please don't bite my head off. I was just singing the alphabet, and because I don't have both my hands, yeah, but 8 or 13. I could have missed a 5 somewhere there. Second question, name one condition that was necessary for the formation of Tropical Cyclone Idai. So there's several conditions that you could go over, but the one that I loved was an ocean water temperature that is greater than 26.5 degrees. There are several others. And something that I actually forgot to mention, now that I remember, I don't think I mentioned in this video typically when tropical cyclones occur. So they don't occur all year round. They occur in late summer to early autumn. And the reason for this is because ocean water, or water in general, takes longer to heat in comparison to the land. So only by that time has the ocean water heated up to that point. So you mostly hear of tropical cyclones from like late January, February to March, because at that time the ocean water has heated to that temperature. So that's just something I forgot to mention. But yeah, that's one condition. And then here, what stage is this cyclone in? So with this, it's actually quite a tricky question, because if you read, they'll tell you that it's moving in a westerly direction, and the wind speeds exceeding 170 kilometers closer to the eye, blah 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 blah. And if you know the different characteristics of the different stages, you would know that we would say a tropical cyclone has reached the mature stage if the wind speeds are greater than 180 kilometers per hour. However, in this image, we see that currently, like at 2 p.m. when this image was taken, the wind speeds were 120 kilometers per hour. So we can say that it is still developing. Yeah, just by reading the wind speed, we know that it is still developing. And I stand to be corrected, but you can't see the eye clearly. So that's another thing that tells you that it's still developing. But yeah, this was a bit of a tricky question, but you should always expect such tricky questions. Okay, so the question says, why will the wind speed decrease as you move further from the eye wall? And this is mainly because as you move away from the eye wall, the pressure gradient decreases. So that will also then result in a decrease in the wind speed. But yeah, next question says, in a paragraph of approximately 8 lines, suggest the negative impacts that high wind, I emphasize that, high wind speeds will have on the coastal areas of Mozambique. Basically, in your answer, don't include anything on flooding. And no, it's just impacts caused by high wind speeds. First one. Also, with questions like this, it counts 4 times 2. So you need to just give 4 points. And the paragraph that you write is not like the paragraph you'd write in English. Just state your points truly, and well, not state your point, but like, yeah, just write a paragraph, but you don't have to go in depth because they just want 4 points. But yeah, okay, first one, destruction to property. 2, erosion caused by the high wind speed. And this erosion can also affect crops, agriculture, and the likes. That's another reason. Okay, another really sad reason is loss of human life. Like, you know, with the destruction of property, these properties can fall on people, injure people. It can result in, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like hospitals will get full because of injuries and the likes, and that will put a strain on the healthcare system. And also because of the destruction of properties, people are not going to be able to get to work. So there's also now then an economic impact. But basically with these answers, just mention anything and everything related to high wind. Do not mention thunderstorms and flooding. I mean, flooding can occur as a result of storm surges, but just shy away from mentioning floods. It's wind, it's erosion, it's destruction, it's a strain on the healthcare system. People are not able to get to work, and because of the destruction, people like trucks and all these things are not able to deliver food. So there's going to be a shortage of food. Basically, stuff like that. So yeah. And that's a wrap. So yeah. Please do let me know if you have any other questions. And guys, please be lenient on me if I do make mistakes. I am human at the end of the day, and I do promise as I keep going, I will keep, getting better. And yeah, thank you so much for your patience. And as I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them.